Joe Rogan is, it's interesting to see a lot of these people reposition when they start to realize like it's not helpful to pretend that Donald Trump is anything other than a malignant force in our politics and in our country. But here's Joe Rogan moving on to the next malignant force and singing his praises. Go ahead.
Did you see the CBS interview with J.D. Vance?
Just one clip.
Fucking amazing.
Oh, so I should watch the whole thing?
Oh my God, it's a masterclass. He just
he is
he's
impressive.
So good.
He is really good.
He's so good.
Has he been on your show?
Yes. Yeah, he's great. That guy, thank God for that guy. He's so good at dismantling those dopey people.
Yeah.
And just breaking down, like she was like, this is a country built on immigrants. He's like, yes, that doesn't mean that 240 years later we have to have the dumbest immigration policy possible.
Well, did
you see this?
Immigrants didn't build the country just 240 years ago and stop anyway.
They just did it on that day. Yeah. I saw some photos online recently of the Chinese workers for the Transcontinental Railroad, I think it was. And stories of how they would get significantly underpaid. They would do far more dangerous work. Far more of them were killed in the making of the railroad.
Also, we should say enslaved people as well. I was looking up lynchings that happened in places like Montana and North Dakota because they don't have historically a high black population. There was one in Fairview, Montana, right on the border. And it was because the people that were building all the bridges back then were itinerant labor from the South, black folks, and they would be traveling across the country. So even like the places that like my white ancestors, take a lot of pride in being from, and like homesteading and stuff like that, the bridges and big infrastructure there wasn't built by them.
It's also interesting just the way that he frames this. You know, we had earlier in the week on the program a professor who has spent over a decade traveling to Hungary and saw the rise of Orban. And the whole concept of that, like, conservatives' entire worldview is owning the libs on some level. Like, there's no, when a guy's fantastic simply because he can go on to 60 Minutes and be belligerent, it's a tough way to choose your politicians. But here is also something.
Peter Thiel chose it for him, so that's
yes, really, that's a good point. This is all Joe Rogan is nothing if he's not a tech bro bootlicker. But here is number 13, where he also reveals there's a class war going on. He just doesn't want you to know it.
Problem with that narrative that the rich people aren't paying enough, and this is one of the things that I've seen progressive podcasters talk about, the wealth tax, and they were talking about imposing a wealth tax on billionaires, and they're like, stop being greedy, pay your fair share. Like, what is your fair share and where is it going? Like, if you could show me that an increase in taxes would fix all the problems, I said this when I lived there, I wouldn't mind paying more taxes if they fixed everything, but it doesn't seem like it fixes anything. Not one thing gets fixed, and they keep asking for more money, which is crazy. The solution is cut it all off. One of the things that Texas had a problem with that narrative.
Wait a second. Okay. So, and I think he's talking about California's wealth tax. So on a California level, I cannot tell you exactly where that money could go. And in general level, why I think we should have a wealth tax. The idea that a wealth tax goes to pay for something is almost secondary. The one thing that a wealth tax will definitively help and do is to begin to narrow the wealth inequality that we have has gone rampant in the past 45 years. A wealth tax could help us close that wealth inequality gap, which is so detrimental to society, both in terms of like who gets to run our politics and also in terms of inflation, and also in terms of political power being distributed, a wealth tax is valuable in and of itself because it takes money from the ultra wealthy.
Right. It diminishes their power. I mean, honestly, if Rogan were to actually be not so much of a coward and have somebody on his program that would challenge him from the left, which he hasn't done really in many years at this point, or a few years, that's what they should say to him. It doesn't matter where it goes to. We want to diminish your power because wealthy people have way too much control, power over our society, and it's affecting. It's destroyed our democracy.
I mean, you could pay for millions of people to get back on health insurance, Medicaid, for years and years and years to come by just 2 or 3 different people in the country could literally pay for that. But if it took their money in a wealth tax and still have billions left. Elon Musk, we could take $200 billion from Elon Musk. We could fund all that Medicaid cuts so that low-income people have access to health care. And he would still have $600 billion left. He'd still be able to go to the moon. It's absurd. And when he talks about fairness, what he's concerned is unfair. Why do we get to take that money from them? Because we can make a rule that says we don't want people walking around who are kings. Mm-hmm. And that's what a king was, right? A king was the person who had the vast, overwhelming concentration of wealth. And with that, they had political power. And so we don't have a monopoly of that political power and wealth that you might have had during kings. We do have an oligarchy instead of a monarchy. And that is that we have just a sort of like cohort of people who have that type of wealth and power. So you don't even need to say, I would justify a wealth tax by how the government spends it. A wealth tax should be confiscatory, period. If it achieves inhibiting the amount of money that can be accrued, and wealth tax in and of itself is not enough. We need to have things like antitrust, and we need to have other constraints that do not allow people to amass so much money that they are literally living on another planet, that their existence is completely untethered from the rest of humanity because they end up having outsized political power and, I don't know, elect a president, as in Donald Trump, destroy agencies that ultimately kill millions of people, are probably going to die because of USAID. God knows what the implications of all the other stuff is. Change our policy on whether Israel can annex the West Bank, on and on and on. This is all a function of allowing small amount of individuals to amass huge, huge fortunes.
In addition to the huge contract he got from Spotify, which is hollowing out the music industry right before our eyes, Joe Rogan sold his Onnit, a company he founded that had the Alpha Brain supplement as a part of it, to Unilever, one of the world's largest corporations that owns, look at what Unilever owns, like Dove soap, things like that, for potentially hundreds of $millions. And all these guys who have hundreds of millions of dollars, this whole Zoran tax thing, they said, well, if you can explain to me, no, we vote. And you're going to be outvoted, and you just have to take it. And that's the new future. That's the only way the future becomes a brighter place, when people like this start getting dictated to by the people who outnumber them.
Yeah, ultimately, that's what's going to have to happen. But there is no the framing of you can tax us if you can justify how we're going to spend it. No, That's not necessary for taxation.
You're an idiot. Like, why do I care about what Joe Rogan thinks about how we tax him?
Yeah, and what does he think the problems are? Like, what problems does he want fixed?
He also
white genocide in South Africa.
Right.
I will remind you, when I went on to PBD and said we should return to where we were in terms of taxation in this country during the greatest economic growth we had, and also, mind you, probably the greatest period of personal emancipation, social emancipation that existed from the end of World War II into the early 70s, really ultimately until Reagan, but mostly during the 50s and 60s, every dollar over what would amount to about $3 million today would be taxed at a 90% rate. So your first $3 million, you'd pay 27% tax rate. Every dollar after $3 million, you pay a 90% tax rate. We wouldn't need a wealth tax at that point if we could tax in that way again. And he resented that idea because he resented that I said that because I don't make $3 million a year.
But where would
I
the
don't-
incentive be
I don't get to
build the
opine on that.
Vegas loop?
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, you could just see it in the context of our small K shaped economy. The economy also is increasingly just a function of a smaller and smaller group of wealthier and wealthier people. It's not sustainable. That in and of itself is enough, in my estimation. Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.